March 31st brings the month to a close with a shift into grounded, practical energy. After days of movement through clarity, depth, tension, release, and recalibration, today introduces something quieter, but more solid. The moon moves into Capricorn, and this changes the way your emotional energy is directed. Instead of focusing on what you feel or what is possible, your attention may turn toward what can actually be built. This creates a sense of stabilization. You may notice that your thoughts and emotions feel more contained, more structured, and more focused on what is necessary rather than what is ideal. The energy becomes less about exploration and more about application. Capricorn energy is practical. It asks what can be done, what can be maintained, and what can be developed over time. It is not concerned with immediate results, but with long-term direction. You may feel a stronger connection to responsibility, not in a heavy way, but in a clear way. Something you have been thinking about or moving toward may now feel like something that requires consistent effort. The focus shifts from possibility to commitment. This can feel grounding. After a period of emotional and mental movement, there is a sense that things are settling into place. You may feel more capable of organizing your thoughts, setting priorities, and taking steps that feel stable. At the same time, this energy can feel more serious. There may be less interest in distractions or temporary engagement. You may feel drawn toward what matters in a long-term sense, even if it requires effort or discipline. This does not remove motivation. It refines it. Instead of acting based on impulse or inspiration, you begin acting based on intention and structure. The key dynamic of today is grounding, not just knowing what you want, but beginning to create something from it. Because at the end of any cycle, what remains is not just what you felt or understood, but what you are willing to build from it. To understand the deeper psychology of March 31st, we need to explore what happens when emotion becomes structured. The moon represents your emotional responses, your internal rhythm, and the way you process experience as it happens. It is fluid, adaptive, and often influenced by immediate circumstances. Capricorn changes that. Capricorn does not approach emotion in a fluid way. It organizes it. It contains it. It directs it towards something purposeful. When the moon moves into Capricorn, the emotional system begins to operate with more control, more awareness of consequence, and more connection to long-term outcomes. This does not mean emotion disappears. It means emotion becomes disciplined. Instead of reacting immediately, you may begin to process how you feel in a more structured way. You may notice a natural pause between feeling and response. This creates space for intention. Psychologically, this introduces a sense of responsibility. Not responsibility in the external sense, but internal responsibility for how you manage your energy, your time, and your direction. You may become more aware of what your actions lead to over time. This awareness can shift your focus. Instead of asking what feels good in the moment, you may begin asking what will remain stable in the long term. This changes how decisions are made. Capricorn is connected to reality, not as limitation, but as structure. It recognizes that everything requires effort, consistency, and time. When the moon aligns with this energy, your emotional state begins to support those qualities rather than resist them. You may feel more grounded, not necessarily lighter, but more stable. There may be less fluctuation in how you feel and more consistency in how you approach situations. This can create a sense of control, not over everything, but over your own responses. Another important psychological effect is emotional maturity. You may begin to see situations in terms of what they require rather than how they affect you. This does not reduce empathy, it adds perspective. You may notice that you are less reactive to temporary changes and more focused on what actually matters over time. This can also bring awareness of limits. Capricorn understands boundaries. You may recognize where your energy needs to be directed and where it needs to be conserved. This can lead to more intentional use of time and effort. At times, this energy can feel restrictive, not because it is limiting, but because it removes unnecessary movement. It asks you to focus, to commit, and to work with what is real rather than what is ideal. The key is to understand that this is not about reducing your vision, it is about building it. The deeper lesson of this transit is emotional alignment with responsibility, not as pressure, but as direction. Because when your emotional energy supports your long-term goals, progress becomes consistent. And consistency is what turns intention into something real. On a practical level, March 31st may feel like a day where your energy becomes more focused, steady, and intentional. You might notice that you are less interested in exploring new ideas or revisiting past emotions, and more interested in doing something with what you already know. The shift is subtle but clear. Your attention moves toward what can be organized, completed, or built upon. This can show up as a natural sense of prioritization. You may feel more aware of what actually matters in a practical sense. Tasks that contribute to long-term progress may feel more important than things that offer temporary satisfaction. You may find it easier to choose what to focus on, simply because the direction feels clearer. Another pattern that may appear today is consistency in action. You may not feel a sudden burst of motivation, but you may feel capable of steady effort. This is not the kind of energy that pushes you to do everything at once. It supports doing one thing properly and continuing with it. This can create a sense of quiet productivity. You may complete something you have been putting off. You may organize something that felt scattered. You may take a step that feels small but meaningful in the long run. You may also notice that your reactions are more controlled. Situations that might normally create emotional fluctuation may feel easier to manage. You may respond with more thought, more patience, and less urgency. This does not mean you are disconnected, it means you are more intentional. Another noticeable pattern is a shift in how you relate to effort. You may become more aware that progress requires consistency. Instead of looking for quick results, you may feel more comfortable investing time and energy into something that develops gradually. This can change how you approach challenges. Instead of avoiding something because it feels difficult, you may feel more willing to work through it step by step. This creates resilience. You may also feel a stronger awareness of time, not in a stressful way, but in a structured way. You may think about what needs to be done today, what can wait, and what requires ongoing attention. This can help you create order. At the same time, it is important not to become overly rigid. This energy supports structure, but it should not limit flexibility completely. The goal is balance, not restriction. The most helpful approach today is steady commitment. Notice what matters. Notice what can be built from where you are now, and take action in a way that you can maintain, because today is not about intensity, it is about creating something that lasts. Now bring this grounded, building energy into your own experience, sign by sign. Today is not about starting something new. It is about taking what you already know and giving it structure, direction, and consistency. If you're an Aries, your energy may slow just enough to focus. You may feel the urge to act, but today asks you to act with purpose. Growth for you lies in committing to one direction and following through, rather than chasing multiple impulses. If you're a Taurus, this energy supports you naturally. You may feel more stable, more clear, and more capable of building something meaningful. Growth comes from trusting your pace and continuing steadily, even if progress feels slow. If you're a Gemini, your thoughts may begin to organize into something practical. Ideas that were scattered may now feel ready to take form. Growth lies in choosing one idea and developing it rather than staying in exploration. If you're a Cancer, your emotional awareness may shift into responsibility. You may recognize what needs to be done for your own stability. Growth comes from supporting yourself through consistent action, not just emotional understanding. If you're a Leo, your focus may turn toward long-term expression. Something you want to create or pursue may now feel like it requires commitment. Growth lies in showing up consistently even when inspiration is not immediate. If you're a Virgo, this energy aligns strongly with you. You may feel more capable of organizing, refining, and improving something in your life. Growth comes from applying your attention to detail in a way that supports progress, not perfection. If you're a Libra, relationships or decisions may require structure. You may recognize what needs consistency rather than occasional attention. Growth lies in creating balance through action, not just intention. If you're a Scorpio, your intensity may become more focused. You may feel ready to direct your energy towards something specific. Growth comes from using that focus to build rather than to control. If you're Sagittarius, your expansive thinking may begin to ground. You may recognize that something you envisioned now needs practical steps. Growth lies in bringing your vision into reality, one step at a time. If you're a Capricorn, this energy resonates deeply with you. You may feel aligned, focused, and ready to take responsibility for your direction. Growth comes from continuing forward without overloading yourself. If you're an Aquarius, your ideas may begin to require structure. Something innovative may now need a practical form. Growth lies in bridging your vision with execution. And if you're a Pisces, your emotional and intuitive understanding may begin to stabilize. You may feel ready to bring something into reality. Growth comes from trusting that structure can support your vision rather than limit it. As we close March 31, notice how the entire month begins to settle into something more solid. Over the past weeks, you may have moved through different phases, moments of reflection, moments of clarity, moments of emotional depth, moments of tension, release, and adjustment. Each phase brought something forward, something to understand, something to feel, something to recognize. But today is not about what you discovered, it is about what remains. You may notice that things feel quieter now, not empty, but settled. What needed to be understood has already surfaced. What needed to be felt has already been experienced. What needed to shift has already begun to change. And now, what remains is direction. Not in a dramatic way, but in a grounded, steady sense of what you are moving toward. You may feel less pulled by everything and more focused on what actually matters. Less interested in exploring every possibility and more interested in building something that lasts. This is how cycles complete, not with intensity, but with clarity that becomes stable. Tonight, you might reflect on the month as a whole. What did I come to understand about myself? What changed in how I think, feel, or respond? And what am I now ready to build moving forward? These are not questions about the past. They are questions about continuity. Because what you experienced this month does not end here. It becomes the foundation for what comes next. And when you carry that awareness forward, you are not starting over, you are continuing. With more clarity, more understanding, and a stronger sense of direction than before.